Welcome to the final day of competition at the Junior World Cross Country Championships. Mike Dixon alongside myself, David Goldstrom, and another sort of misty morning here for the finale, which is the Junior World Championship of the men's relay, 4x5 kilometers. And over the years, some very famous cross-country athletes have emerged, and we'll catch up with those and this year's generation as we go through this race. The first two laps of this race, as ever, raced in classic stride and glide, and the last two in freestyle. Well, it's despite the mist, a bright morning, as you can see. The twisty testing trails here have been interesting to view all through the week, and there you can see the panorama of the stadium. In today's race, no less than 13 nations, and many of the athletes are already medalists from the championships over the past week or so. But Mike, your thoughts on the course? It's pretty similar to what we've seen.
It certainly is, and 2.5 kilometer track, David. Unusual, I think, in the sense that you drop off from the start line, and that's really one of the only two major drop-offs, and then most of the rest of the course is climbing around and up this mountain before you descend back down onto the stadium. So it's a relentless course, and I think it might allow today for teams to stick together. It is only 5 kilometers. Russians are favourite, but it might allow the French, the Norwegians, and even the Finns to hang on to the speed of the Russians.
Yeah, Mike alluding there to the Russians, but let's meet the Norwegians. They were the champions last year in Val di Fiemme. This is a completely different quartet. They were runners-up in 2013. And Norway with actually a chance at the podium, but the Russian team is so strong. France, they were the silver medalists last year, and 3 of that team are in today's quartet: Chauvin, Lapierre and Thibaut. The Russian team here, well, every one of them is a medalist at these championships. We'll get into the details as we go through the race. Bronze medalists last year in Italy, and Sweden all in white there. Completely new team. They were 4th a year ago, and next to them will be the Finns. The Finns, who've got a couple of returnees from last year. The man who opens up, Vuorinen, he was in their squad that finished, or quartet that finished 5th. And Maki, who's the anchor man, he was also there last year. Switzerland was 6th, and Kazakhstan was 7th last year. Italy 8th, and those positions of last year are reflected by the bib numbers that they wear this time around. So pretty well all set. 13 nations. The absentees, well, Germany would be the most notable of the teams that haven't, or countries that haven't managed to produce a team for this competition. And remember, this is the Junior World Championship, so this is all about the future.
Well, they're off, and it's an electric start, a dynamic start there, especially from Team Norway. Look at the double polling power, and well, that's straight out of the Olympic start, if you like, for the Norwegian teams. And that's a huge drive there from Klæbo.
Yeah, Klæbo, who was the bronze medalist in the Classic Junior World Championship right at the beginning of the week in classic style, so that's why he's on the opening leg, and no better than putting a classic sprinter there, because if you think that he's not suitable, remember in the sprint they do the prologue, then they do the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and by the time they finish, they've done more than the 5,000 meters that he has to do.
Well, this is an incredible start from the Norwegian, and I would say this is team strategy, David, to say, well, how do we break this Russian quartet? They're so strong. Maybe we really attack hard from the gun and try and get some gain on this first of the rotations.
Well, Norway, as you might imagine, have got a terrific tradition. If you go back to 2010, they were the champions there. And in the 2010 quartet was a certain Mr. Thomas Northug, who just recently notched up his first World Cup victory. They defended that title in 2011. But if I go back to 2010 again, 3 really great graduates have come out of that quartet. Not only Thomas Northug, but Finn Krogh and also Paul Goldberg were in that quartet in 2010.
It is such a feeding ground, or talent creating ground here at the Junior Worlds, and I think every nation has learned that you've got to put your young athletes through this, dealing with pressure and dealing with head-to-head racing. And even foreign travel. There's so much to learn from these championships.
On the left of your picture there, that's now still to your left there, that's Alexander Bakanov, and he was the silver medalist in the classic sprint, but also took a bronze in the 10-kilometer freestyle and was finished 5th in the skiathlon. So it's been a terrific championships for him. And of course, as Mike said, the Russians have been a real dominant force here. And they're going to be really difficult to beat because they've got talent in all of the particular skills. And you can see there, Norway now demoted to 2nd place. 3rd, that's France. That's Valentin Chauvin, 7th in the classic sprint. So you can see here the tactic, Mike, that the teams have chosen. They've chosen to put their top sprinters in this opening classic leg.
Yes, and well, the cream has floated to the top. I think now Bakanov will dictate from here on in. Norwegians, of course, Klæbo, he tried, but he didn't get away. And it was mainly, let's be honest, on the easier part of the track where you drop out of the stadium. Now it's all about climbing.
But he has put the field into a sort of Indian file, so that is one objective. He's spread them out. Sweden there in 4th place. Victor Thorn on the opening leg for them, and no particular form at this Junior World Championships yet, as they go through the first 1,500 meters there. And you can see a little bit spread out, and right at the back there, that is Belarus, and Johan Bazlev having a real lonely struggle. That's going to be a long journey.
That is, and I noticed Ludek Seller, the Czech Republic, Team 9, he was skating, and this is a classic part of the race. The last 2 legs will be freestyle, but a little naughty there. You're not allowed to skate in the classic race.
You can step around 1 or 2 corners, though.
Oh, absolutely, and we saw Kvale doing that so well, and his descending. Of course, you can in corners, but on a straight, generally, you need to keep into the tracks.
Lauri Vorinen of Finland, he's also fairly close up in this early stage there. He was 6th in the classic sprint, so he's opening the leg for Finland. But there are 1 or 2 nations like the Finns. You notice actually that, you know, they haven't really seemingly got a particularly big reservoir of talent at the moment. That's the worry. And it's the Russian Bakanov, tall, long levers, nice stride. Look at the shoulders over the knees, really getting the power down, Mike.
He certainly is, and what a giant of a man he is for a 19-year-old. And it's very Russian, this technique, the sliding through from the knee and then the foot coming forward, getting all the body weight over the leg which you're going to drive from, and so easy and flowing with it, so efficient in all his movements here, no wasted energy. On the right side, Norway, Klæbo, who started so well, beginning to struggle with that, almost like a sprint race start.
And the Russians, of course, absolutely full of confidence because it's been their week, really, at the juniors in terms of the men's division. And they're the first 2,500 meters, they come back into the stadium. One of the things about designing a course like this, and I think that was very much in the mind here in Almaty in Kazakhstan, was to have a compact course so that those spectators who would come out here to this centre would actually have the opportunity to enjoy quite a lot of the action.
And it really, you're right, this track and its profile allows very much for that. You can see so much of the racetrack from one place. First rotation, David, 2.5 kilometers, and I'm impressed. Bakanov has gone to the front, but I'm impressed that 4 teams have managed to stay with his first lap pace.
Yeah, but the rest are really strung out now. Almaty, of course, one of the 2 candidates for the 22 Winter Olympic Games. That decision will be made on July the 31st of this year. And it's the Frenchman now. This is Chauvin going up there to do some of the work. Ski's running well, and the French have had not a bad competition overall here. They've had quite a few men placed, particularly in the freestyle races. But their opener here, top 10 in the sprint. Just that means he was 7th, actually, which means he was in the semis, but not quite in the final.
Chauvin, he took this. We'll see another switchback coming up soon. He took them very well. And if Bakanov, the Russian, has got any weakness, it's his cornering. He kind of snowplowed into the corner, killing his speed a little. So not as comfortable as you'd expect from the Alpine nations, who brought up on their downhill skis and their cross-country skis. Another switchback here. Bakanov just not quite the same balance as the Frenchman.
And it's interesting with the Russian team because Bakanov was in the quartet that finished as bronze medalists last year. He, the Pathfinder, the opener, and Chervotkin, who's been a real star, he actually was in the team that won the gold medal at these Junior Worlds in 2013 and was a bronze medalist a year ago and a multi-medalist here. But again, just to emphasize the point about the pedigree of these Junior World Championships, if I rewind in history to 2010, I was talking about the Norwegians. The Russians in 2010 were runners-up to the Norwegians, but in their quartet, a certain Mr. Belov and a certain Mr. Sedov were in that particular quartet. And if I go to 2011, the Russians were again runners-up to the Norwegians, and Mr. Ustigov, who rides high in the World Cup rankings at the moment, was in that team. And Ustigov was part of the quartet. In fact, he anchored the quartet to gold medal in 2012. So it just shows there's 3 big names, and it shows you that they really come through from this sort of competition to play a major part in the World Cup. And that's really what we'll be looking for 2 years from now, perhaps. There, Ustigov, just checking on him. Where is he in the World Cup rankings? Thought he was just in the top 10.
I thought he was as well. Of course, his sprinting is stronger than occasionally than his distance racing. But of course, Belov doing so well, and 3rd overall in the Tour de Ski.
Absolutely, and Belov actually now 5th in the overall World Cup rankings. Actually, Ustigov, you're right, in the sprints riding high, but actually 23rd overall. But that's still a pretty good result. In his last 2 competitions, he was 3rd and 2nd in the competitions in Rybinsk. So just finding his form at distance races just at the right time for the upcoming World Championships in Falun.
Very much so. Now these teams, well, Italy and France and Canada, really now beginning to struggle with. We can see the gap, 30 seconds back to the rest of the best.
Yeah, the Finn Vorinen has done a good job actually, but remember they're coming in to change over to the 2nd men in their quartets, again in classic style. And actually quite a nice day in Almaty. This finale of the week.
And some of the young athletes here going for the short sleeves. It is +3, well, +3, +4, +5 degrees. Look at the tempo now from the Frenchman Chauvin. He's desperately trying to make sure that he hands over in 1st place.
Yeah, temperature actually given at the start of the race, +3 with the snow at -1. So maybe a little tricky for the servicemen at that temperature.
Definitely, and you can see the tracks are a little glazed in this wet and warm conditions. It has made it difficult for the waxers. That turn of pace is beginning to hurt the Russian Bakanov, but surely he'll stay there.
Yeah, I think he's now got the desire. He's going to be handing over to Ivan Yakimushkin. And Bakanov, just to reiterate, a silver medal in the classic sprint, a bronze medal in the 10 free, and he was 5th in the skiathlon. So 3 pretty good results here. But it's the Frenchman Valentin Chauvin hands over to Jules Lapierre, who was 7th in the skiathlon and top 10 in the freestyle race. Russia, it's now, as I said, Yakimushkin and Finland there. That's not a bad effort to be there with the Norwegians. I hope that Lori Lepisto, who's now taken over, can actually perhaps stay with them. He was 9th in the classic sprint again in the semi-finals. Vorinen was actually in the final, the man who's just handed over to him.
Look at Yakimushkin, the Russian at the front. He's practically running up these hills. His wax isn't working well, but he's desperately trying to get rid of the Frenchman already.
Yeah, the runner-up in the skiathlon to Chavotkin. Yakimushkin, pretty talented all-round skier. Not in the quartet last year that finished in bronze medal. Little snow plough into the turn there.
It's quite wet. Well, again, the Frenchman taking the corner so much more efficiently, and the better line, wide in and tight out of the bend.
Yeah, and they are, as you can see, a country mile ahead of Finland and Norway, who at the moment are, even at this early stage, Mike, fighting for the bronze medal.
They are, and once you lose contact, very difficult. And the Frenchman, Lapierre, he knows that, so he's giving everything to stay in the slipstream, and I think that's sensible of Yakimushkin.
Yeah, the out of picture, it's Ole Jørgen Bruvoll for Norway, who's now vying with Lori Lepisto for 3rd and 4th place. And it's not the biggest crowd in the world, but they're certainly making noise, which is great. And it's always good for the athletes as well, particularly when they come into the stadium complex. It just gives you a bit of boost that you know, there are people there, there's noise.
Oh, very much, and all the teammates who are around and have been racing over the last few days are here at the trackside as well.
And the team that's got the greatest pressure is the Russian team, because they, you know, are expected to win this. They're one. There's Norway. You just saw them. Back to Yakimushkin.
It's quite interesting, David, in the skiathlon, the distance race, 10 kilometers classic, 10 kilometers freestyle, the Russians destroyed the field, basically. They were way ahead, some almost a minute ahead of the next person. So on paper, they are the favourites, but this is a much shorter race, and it allows the younger athletes who haven't got the endurance yet, like the Russians have, over the big distance. It is allowing a lot of the teams to stay close today. And
the Frenchman doing a great job harrying. It's very annoying, actually, when you're that close to, you've got someone on your ski tails who's really that close, because it just unsettles you in terms of rhythm. And you can see there with Yakimushkin, the rhythm isn't quite as good as we've seen him in previous days.
Exactly
here.
that. He's tense, and often he's getting his ski, the tails of his skis clipped, and that is irritating. It's not illegal, and he looked back there saying, hey, back off, but of course it's just racing.
Yeah, and you know, the more the Frenchman annoys him, the greater his chance of actually staying there. And the one thing actually I would say to Lapierre is don't lead, just stay there, just keep doing what you're doing.
The perfect strategy. Look at this, they're double poling in synchronized action there, huge amount of power to double pole up this climb.
Difference in stature here between Bruvoll for Norway being followed by Lepisto for Finland. Oh, there's a metre or so just opening up there, and here's the Swede. It's Ekström, who's doing this second classic leg. Top 10 in the skiathlon and 6th in the 10-kilometer freestyle, but as they say, somebody's got to ski the second classic leg.
Well, very much. And Bruvoll has made an in-run, an improvement to the leader's time by what, some 3.6 seconds, so that's got to be good news for the Norwegians.
And coming up now here, you can see next team through here. And that's team 8, and that's the Italians. It's Simone Romani who is representing them, the Italians who were 8th a year ago. And well, the rest of these teams, 9 going through there. The Czech Republic, that's Jonas Bestak, and actually the Czechs were 10th last year. But back to the front of the action, and the one thing I said I wouldn't suggest, but Lapierre decides that he has seen enough of this man's body language to tell him that it might be worth taking him on for real.
Well, I'm surprised. I'm with you. I thought the best place was to stick in behind him and then try and get a little gain before the handover.
Well, you know, this is only the first of their rotations. I would have expected him to maybe do this on the second rotation to get away, because this is such a long way from home for him.
It certainly is. Well, Lapierre, he's trying. He's just feeling the water. Can he possibly get rid of Bakinov? Bakinov certainly looks like he's struggling.
It's not Bakinov, actually. It's Yakimushkin.
Yakimushkin.
Yeah.
And Yakimushkin fought so hard in the skiathlon, the 10 and 10.
Yeah, Yakimushkin with that silver medal in the skiathlon, 4th in the 10-kilometer freestyle. Still, that's not a bad reward for his week's effort here. And Laurie Lepisto, you can see what's that, 2 meters behind.
And look at Norway, Bruvoll, it's still, well, it was 8.6, it's 9.3. He'll be saying if only he was handed over with the Russian, with the Frenchman, he would stay with that pace. He's running at the same pace, but just can't close the gap. And the British team, David, we do have 3 juniors in this category here, but sadly not 4, with James Clunet, Sam Cairns from Glenfeshie, and Gregor Young, who've been racing here, but unfortunately only 3 of them.
Yeah, by the by, morning to everybody up at the Huntley Ski Club. Hope you're with us and watching this. Yeah, disappointing we don't have a British quartet in here, but nonetheless, this is the sort of racing performance that you need to match yourselves up to for future Junior World Championships, and hopefully one day we will actually have not only the right number but the quality to be up there. And the Frenchman again, much better cornering, and just eases his way to the front there. And Yakimushkin, perhaps he's been training with Justina Kowalczyk, because he's not great at the cornering, is he?
Well, it's quite typical. When you're French and you're used to movement on skis from a young age, the corners feel much easier. When you learn the skill later, it's you don't have that same flow.
Yeah, and notice there's sort of a couple of skating type steps to get round the corner. That's perfectly okay, but then it's got to be absolutely stride and glide from there. Again, you see just that couple of skating steps to go around the corner. And of course they're coming down now. They've still got another 2.5 kilometers to go. Yakimushkin, he really does look uncomfortable, doesn't he, on corners?
He does, and he's now getting frustrated, and Lapierre doing the perfect strategy, irritation, and even trying to go ahead, and maybe Lapierre needs to take this advantage and try and get some lead now.
And there you can see the Norwegian now, who's broken away from the Finn, and this is Bruvoll, who's managed to catch up. And one of the reasons he's managed to catch up was that the front 2, because of Yakimushkin's poor cornering, the pace slowed, and that's allowed him to get back in.
It's exactly that, and Bruvoll took those corners beautifully, but the Frenchman Lapierre didn't try and take his advantage as he did last time on the corners.
Lepisto now being breathed on by Ekström, so the Finn trying to connect with, sorry, the Swede trying to connect with the Finn, and they need to connect to try and work together. And look at the tempo there. Lapierre nicely balanced, isn't he, on the right?
I like his changes of gear, you know, shortening the stride when it gets steeper.
And that's caught Bruvoll of Norway, because he really accelerated there to put the pressure on. And that's worked sweetly. It's
a great strategy. As soon as Bruvoll came up and touched, as you said, breathe on them practically, Lapierre realizing that, of course, the Norwegian has put all his energy out, then is the time to break, to psychologically hurt the Norwegian, and it's done just that. What a pity for Bruvoll. He needed a break in behind them.
So just a kilometre to go before we change from classic to freestyle. And that really hurts, actually, when you use all that energy and you catch up and then suddenly you're burst away from that. That's really painful. And you can just see here those legs looking a little bit like jelly now.
Very much. His arm power not as dynamic either as the lead 2. But I wonder if Bruvoll can pull some time back on the descent into the stadium, maybe a couple of seconds.
Sweden now have eclipsed Finland, and Ekström now determined to, you know, punish the Finn, and rather than working together, because I don't think Lepisto's got much left to offer, to be honest, and Ekström's realised that and takes Sweden into fourth place, albeit over half a minute behind. And now just the brute strength and force of Yakimoshkin puts him in front there. Lapierre behind him, and as they come down to the stadium, it's going to be Jean Tiberghien of France, who was 8th in the 10-kilometer freestyle race, to take over. And for Russia, it's going to be Denis Spitsov, who was the runner-up in the 10-kilometer freestyle and 3rd in the skiathlon. So again, you would say on the stats, the Russian would have the better chance here, because his performances, that Spitsov I'm talking about, certainly on paper better than Jean Tiberghien. And that's why Yakimoshkin just needs to stay close, to be honest.
He does. The amazing contrast in techniques. Again, Lapierre going for the short, sharp, almost running up these hills. And the discipline of Yakimoshkin, he's sticking with his long reach and his classic technique. Now double poling. Now he's off.
And these tracks and this centre within an hour from the centre of Almaty. There's a metro train that brings you up, and then a ski lift as well. Goes up to some 3,000 meters. And there's a very, very attractive lake up in this part of the world as well. So the changeovers happen now, and it's Russia and France. And you see the bib colours changed as well, because we're on freestyle. So we go from green to yellow, and the Norwegian, that's Audun Erikstad, who's taken over. He was top 15 in the 10-kilometer freestyle race.
It's quite a margin there, David, back to Norway, but it would be in the best interest of Erikstad to try and close this gap so quickly, and possibly an opportunity on the early descending corners.
Sweden taking over responsibility, Philip Danielsson, and for Finland now, it's Valtteri Rinkanhaju who has the responsibility, and he's got quite a lot of work to do, to be honest. And up front here now, Russia and France. It's been this way pretty well from the get-go. Leg number 3, the first of the 2 freestyle legs, and there you can see Russia up front here. This is Denis Spitsov, and being pursued there by Jean Tiberghien, who finished 6 places lower in the 10-kilometer free and 25 places lower in the skiathlon. And in 3rd place, trying to close the gap there, Erikstad. And he was 14th, top 15 in the 10-kilometer freestyle, so he'll think he's got some chance. And I like the way that he's skiing at the moment. Beautiful skiing,
not panicking, keeping all the efficiency, and you just feel that he could close this gap, could pull something back.
It was interesting there, Tiberghien just looked round there, because he could obviously hear something from behind, and is therefore aware. But you can see the camera actually gives you a much better idea of the task that the Norwegian has got to get back into this.
I like the motivation, the desire here from the French team. Is the brief has been stick with the Russians no matter what, and they're doing just that. This is now leg 3 of a 4-man relay.
Yeah, the problem they've got is that, with no disrespect to their anchor man, it would be difficult to see him matching up to Alexei Chevotkin, who's going to ski the anchor leg for Russia, who is one of the outstanding. He's a double gold medalist at these junior worlds. So that's going to be the task. The task for the French really is to hope that maybe this man can do something really good and maybe get in front and maybe earn them a cushion of advantage. But it's going to have to be a big cushion nonetheless. And here's Erikstad trying to raise the tempo here, but of course he's under pressure. He's not under pressure for 3rd place, but he's under pressure to try and close.
He certainly is, and when you've got that 15-second gap, you can see them all the time, and it's soul-destroying, not able to close the gap.
Well, this track, which is so twisty and turny, is a disadvantage to the Norwegian, because he does lose visual contact, and that's a bit disheartening, really.
I'd expected a little more from the Swedish team. Often they have come to these championships and performed well, but certainly off the pace at the moment, and unlikely to pull it back.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Now we'll get a time check here on the Norwegian and Erik Stad. The task here is becoming quite substantial. That said, Mike, I mean, it's, you know, it's in there at 18 seconds, but this is only 1.7 kilometers into the first of his 2 rotations. So
no impression at all. It was 15.7 seconds behind, so it's just dropping a little.
I think that's to do with the battle up front there for supremacy between Spitsov and Tiberghien, who've both been very, very positive in the early stages. And here we've got Sweden coming down. And that is also a gap that's extended, and Finland right behind them there, 50 seconds. And I think even for them to get back into perhaps a battle for the bronze medal, that's looking pretty daunting at the moment.
Certainly is. Coaches giving, well, videoing and giving advice.
And Spitsov looks really good. He's got the Frenchman under pressure.
He is, but it's a great strategy again. It always feels an easier path, an easier race when you're tucked in behind someone, even though you're at your limit. Again, the Russian, well, Spitsov at this time, putting the brakes on before the corner, and the Frenchman gaining ground.
Yeah, Frenchman just getting a little rest in there, letting the skis do the work. And as they come around, they've got, of course, another 2.5 kilometers to go before they hand over to the anchor men.
Spitsov at the front will be wondering, how do I get rid of Tiberghien? How do I break him? And he's going to have to really increase the tempo if he's wanting to do just that.
Well, I imagine that he's going to perhaps attack one of the climbs to try and do the breakaway there. Now, again, here you can see Erik Stad, and again, that gap is extending.
Another 3 seconds, and that's expensive. He'll be getting the advice that he's dropped, what, nearly 10 seconds, 8 seconds from the changeover. And that's not positive information.
Yeah, Norway won't be happy with this, because generally they've been, in fact, they haven't been third since 2012, when actually Kazakhstan were the runners-up in 2012, the year in which Ustugov anchored the Russians to success.
At the last reading, David, on the changeover, Kazakhstan were in 12th position, 3:19 behind, so not a good day for them at home.
No, but if they were to win the Winter Olympics, investment would come in to the infrastructure and also to the team. And where we are sitting now in 2015, there are enough years there, if they've got the talent, to hone it, to bring them up to be very competitive in cross-country.
Yep, there was time, and with Poltarainen, the main man in Kazakhstan cross-country at the moment, he's a good role model, and that can easily be passed down the line.
So Spitsov just can't get rid of the Frenchman at the moment.
Like a limpet, he's just sticking in there.
This is mighty important for the French, though, this is encouraging. It's also interesting to see this new generation of French cross-country skiers.
It's a real tough program they've got at their ski schools, where they train before their education, so they train early in the morning. After their training, they get some rest, and then more study, and then more training, and then more study in the evening. It's quite a rigid routine, but it makes very good athletes from a young age. And most countries are following that education with sport program.
When you look at the World Cup standings as they are at this moment, you've got to go down to 19th place to find the first Frenchman. Good chap, Maurice Magnificat, and he may well figure in the upcoming Senior World Championships. And then they have the likes of Jean-Marc Gaillard, who we know is very much a big occasion racer at the distances. But this French group of athletes here, quite promising, and Spitsov on an uphill climb here, predictably trying to get rid of the Frenchman.
He's getting very frustrated now. Spitsov, his team orders would have been to create a gap.
And look at the contrast between Spitsov and Sweden Danielsson. By contrast, not trying to be rude about it, but almost plodding compared to Spitsov.
Yes, definitely struggling. Danielsson is on his limit, and there's not the strength nor the drive as the Russians and the Frenchmen have.
Sunshine breaking out here, and it's a really lovely place. The mountains just to the south just give this lovely backdrop to the city, the former capital of Kazakhstan, Almaty. Of course, they made the purpose-built capital is Astana now, and I've never been there, but everybody says don't at this time of year because generally the temperature is at -40.
Well, you can feel the steepness of this hill, and Spitsov made it look easy, but Danielsson's making it look quite a severe hill. Norway seeping time, losing seconds every stride.
Yeah, this is really tough because now he's lost visual contact pretty well the whole way around this trail, and he's in no man's land. The only thing he's got to help him are the splits that he gets from the coaches. And that's Canada up front there, just over breasting the horizon. And back to the front there, and well, all credit here to Tiberghien of France, because he's been asked a few questions by Spitsov and he's found the answer to all of them so far.
It puts a lot of pressure now on Shavotkin. We know he can handle pressure, we know he can lead a race, and he did a lot of that when he won his skiathlon, but French brief is to stay with them. But I agree, Schwartz is maybe not quite in the same league as Shavotkin.
Well, there were 19 places different in favour of Shavotkin, but now Spitsov full of gusto, full of energy, but so is the Frenchman. He's sort of hunting, and you know, so you've got to give this leg to the Frenchman, I think.
Very much. That was survival, and he managed to survive exactly the team order, stay with the pace.
So Louis Schwartz is the man who is in black and yellow, now being pursued by the double gold medalist Alexei Shavotkin. That's 2 gold medals from this year's Junior Worlds, but he has a gold medal from 2013 in this very race and a bronze from last year. And the Norwegian, it's going to be Erikstad to hand over to Gaute Kvale, who was 17th in the skiathlon, but I'm afraid the gap is too big. He can hold on to 3rd place, but he really doesn't have a chance over 5,000 meters to close. And although Kvale is going out in determined style, he's using so much energy there to sprint out of the stadium, and this is what he can hope for. If they dawdle and play cat and mouse, that's his only hope, the Norwegian, to get back into this.
Very much. I'm amazed that Schwartz is still leading. He moved over to let Shavotkin pass. Shavotkin didn't want to lead. Quite interesting. He knows, I think Shavotkin knows that he's by far the stronger athlete.
Yeah, and I think Shavotkin doesn't really want to do much in this first rotation. And there for Sweden, going out on the last leg, this is Ole Jonsson, and for Finland it's Joni Mäki. Joni was actually 20th in the freestyle 10-kilometer race, so Finland and Sweden still having a little duel there. They're close enough to fight all the way to the finish, but up front here, I think you're absolutely right, Mike. Shavotkin, I think he feels super confident, and he just wants to choose his moment.
It's almost like a cat playing with a mouse, I think, because Shavotkin, he looked behind him, he saw that it is over a 30-second distance, and that's a safe distance. But Schwartz, would it not be maybe more sensible for Schwartz to allow Shavotkin to go past and try and just shade in behind him? But I'm impressed, very impressed with Schwartz so far.
A little bit of news from earlier in the day. Last women's race won by Norway. Tiril Weng, Julie Meyer, Sophie Hustad and Lotte Weng from Russia. They were the runners-up there. And Germany, Nadine Hermann opened up for them as the pathfinder. They took a bronze medal. Sweden were 4th and Slovenia 5th. Switzerland 6th ahead of Italy 7th. 12 nations involved in that. And Norway, who actually only beat the Russian by 0.04 of a second. So that was a really close race, with Germany 35 seconds back in 3rd place. But back to the present, and Louis Schwartz, well, he's doing what he's doing.
It's pretty good. The man from Villard-de-Lans, and some big names there, top-class biathletes there as well. The Foucault brothers live and train there, and huge amount of snow fell there over Christmas.
So Cavalli just doing his best here, but, you know, he had a hope he'd have to get the interval down to about 20 seconds at this point. And I don't think he's going to manage that.
I think he's made an impression of 4 or 5 seconds on this lead time.
Yeah, because these two are not by any means flat out.
Not yet. Certainly not yet. Shavotkin's just hunting, well, it's only 1.7 kilometers distance gone now. And he does look like Shavotkin just like playing around, not exerting himself too much too early.
So this is a bit of neighbourly rivalry here between Sweden and Finland.
Goes back a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Cross country and Olympic medals between those two nations.
Now we get a time check. Now it was around, well, it was over 30 seconds, wasn't it?
It was 36. So yes, he's got it down to what, 30?
Yeah,
30.6. That's good effort. So it's 6 seconds taken back already.
Yeah, but is it because the front two have really slowed up, or is it because it's a bit of a combination of both, really? And this is the Italians being followed here by the Czech Republic, and they've never really got into this at all. Back to the business end of the race, and Shavotkin just looks so easy. You know, it's all, I mean, and sometimes when the pace is slower, Mike, it becomes actually quite uncomfortable for someone who's used to racing at a higher tempo.
Well, you're right. Everything we've seen about Shavotkin is that he gives everything during every moment of every race. He doesn't hang back. So you're right. He's going into a different strategy today. And will that affect him? Probably not. But is he playing a dangerous game? Maybe. Schwarz is growing in confidence now.
Certainly, there's another example of a French athlete cornering better than a Russian athlete.
I think Schwarz is almost in disbelief that he's led this whole 2.5 kilometers with 1 lap to go.
But of course, the other thing that we're, you know, not alluding to is the fact that France were the runners-up to Norway last year, and by the work that the French team have done, and I mean Chauvin, Lapierre, Thibaugen, particularly in the previous leg, you know, they are securing at worst the silver medal, which is which is a solid achievement.
That's outstanding. It really is, with a very good Norwegian team, and the Swedes, the Finns.
Because these are the stepping stones, and these are the results that will actually find financial funding for a lot of these athletes to continue from junior as they step up to under 23, as they hopefully will step into World Cup. So medaling at these championships is really important, and Schwarz has a little look at Shavotkin and saying, are you going to do any work? And Shavotkin finally, well, he's sort of been released into the lead, really. And now it's just a question of up to him. What does he want to do? I mean, at the moment, he looks as if he's out on a training run.
He does. This would be the time for Shavotkin to make a break, because Schwarz has reneged. He said, OK, I'm not going to lead much longer. So now, and you would expect Schwarz is beginning to suffer in this race. You can see him stumbling occasionally. Now, surely would be the time for Shavotkin to break.
But maybe Shavotkin's got in his mind to win this as easily with the minimum output of energy in a funny sort of way.
Well, he's definitely had this pretty easy so far by his very high standard. Although, can Schwarz do the amazing, do almost the impossible to beat him today? I would love to see it.
Well, what's happening now, if we believe that Chavotkin has got the better of the Frenchman, by the Frenchman staying there, Chavotkin at this race pace is really helping the Frenchman.
Yeah, definitely.
He's helping him to, you know, make sure that that silver medal's there. At the same time, Schwarz is probably beginning to believe just a little bit more. Well, hey, here I am, second leg going up, and there's Chavotkin, has a little look around to Schwarz, and Schwarz doesn't want any of it, and that's the right thing to do. Stay there, make Chavotkin do the work, try to counter-attack when he can. If Chavotkin's going to do a breakaway, then Schwarz is in the right place to counter-attack.
Very much. And on Wednesday, David, of course, Schwarz was 1 minute 51 behind Chavotkin, who won the 10-kilometre free competition. So they really are in a different league, and that's why it's brilliant, quite amazing that Schwarz is doing so well at the moment.
Well, this is the 5-kilometre distance, isn't it? You know, half the distance. So that's what makes this so much more possible.
Very much. And
this is where I would expect Chavotkin to really have a go, you know, on these uphills. They're using greater strength there. There we go.
Well, he heard you. Well, that's it. Is this decisive? Come on, Schwarz, you've got to stay with this heart this little bit and break him if you can. But it doesn't look likely, David.
Oh, and poor old Cavalli rocking from left to right.
Yes, hurting. He tried the intensity that he set off from the stadium first time, but he had to do it. Suffering now, though. It's an awkward corner, this. There's a camber from our left to right, so you have to lead, or it's easier to lead right side. Well,
so Chavotkin away, and Schwarz in second place, and this will be gold medal number 3 for Chavotkin personally, and it'll be a very important one because these team relays matter a lot. It's something which you really can take pride in when you go back home and you say, right, we were the best in the world at the junior worlds in the team. And it's also great for spirit amongst the team.
It is, and Chavotkin's been here before. When I say here before, the European Youth Olympic Festival 2 years ago in Romania. He was part of that gold medal winning team. So again, all these experiences are building blocks to today, to make him understand when to go, when to break, and how to pace himself.
Little bit of downhill relief here for Cavalli.
He needs it.
I saw the last time, you know, I mean, he's gone from 30 seconds to, you know, over 50. So that just shows you the combination of the move from the leader in your picture here and just lapping now Belarus, or he will do in a moment. And that's not going to be nice for Vasily Naumov. Never nice to be lapped, but he's courteous. And that's correct.
That's very good. Yep, and because it's this difficult switchback section now before the stadium.
So
putting the brakes on again.
Gentle snowplow.
Killing all his speed, and he's just playing carefully. He doesn't want to fall. That would give the Frenchman a chance.
And the Belarus has decided to get a bit of a journey, get a bit of a trip on his ski tails, but this is Chavotkin. Will he pick up? Well, that is a bit silly. Now he did the right thing before, and now he's gone into the Durchgang, picks up the Russian flag. You betcha.
Yeah.
And here are the boys: Bakanov, Yakimushkin, Spitsov, and Chavotkin. Well, there's one missing.
Where is he?
Well, it's the classic leg man, but that is.
There he is.
The gold medal, and there they are. Russia back on the top of the Junior World Relay table of honor, something they haven't done till 2012. And the French there, Chauvin, Lapierre, Tiberghien, Schwarz. Schwarz did a really good job. Tiberghien, I thought, was excellent on the previous freestyle leg to match Denis Spitsov. But that's a silver medal for the second Junior World Championships in a row. And Norway relinquished the title they won in Val di Fiemme last year. And Cavalli, no more to give. So Norway, well, they won in 2010 and 11, but last year they regained the title from the Russians, but this time I'm afraid it's third again. And Norway, Kleivo, Bruvol, Erikstad, Kavale, that's their quartet. And just now we just have to see fourth and fifth home here, Sweden and Finland. And it's a yawning gap.
It is. I love the spirit of the French team. The Russian team as well, a very bonded team, but the French team are so impressed with Schwarz. On paper, he should have been destroyed in that last leg, but he only lost 17 seconds.
Yeah, and a decent crowd in the stadium as well. They've yet to really take to this in Almaty. Sometimes the ski jumping but is a bit empty, but here comes Finland into the stadium complex. So this in a way will be an important little battle. Vorinen, Lepisto, Vinka Harju and Maki this is to bring the Finns home.
And I think that's important to beat their neighbours on the last leg. Sweden were ahead, and well done Finland, fourth place.
Where are his teammates though?
Come on boys, done a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, it shows the importance of the medals, doesn't it? And
Italy, and this is Mikael Abraham. Just shows you there's Sweden ahead of them, but Sweden, well, like a candle being blown out there. And 2:25, Italy coming home next into sixth place, and well, it should be the Czech Republic. It is the Czech Republic.
Well, Ole Jonsson, the Swede there, has given everything. He can't move at the moment, but not quite the pace.
Yeah. And Slovenia. Well, it rounds off a great junior world championship for the Russians here. They've really been the dominant force, and they've given us a few names to put in the notebook. And Mike, I guess the biggest of those notes, Alexei Chavotkin.
That's a name, David. I think barring injury or setbacks, the man, he is such a talented young athlete, and I think we'll see him for many, many years to come.
Do you see him perhaps in the you know, similar to Belov?
I do, in that bracket.
Ushtagov,
yeah. And looking further back, Legkov, when he was a junior, he was a good junior, Legkov. He's definitely, Shavotkin's definitely in or even above that category in my mind.
Well, that'll be the fascination. Of course, we're 2015 now, the Winter Olympics 2018, so Chavotkin could be a player in those Winter Olympics of 2018 in South Korea.
Almost, yeah, you would predict it. I'm just wondering if Chavotkin maybe even get a World Cup race out in, say, Lahti later on this season, maybe, or in Oslo. Jonsson still struggling there, and so is Miha Simonets, the Slovenian, just getting up now.
Well, we always say that's what we want to see. We want to see someone who's totally committed, totally emptied, and that's what he's done.
Yeah, can give no more. For all the current training and preparation, that was his limit today, and I'm sure his tomorrow's or his next races can be better.
And I just wonder how this is going to play for the bid, the Almaty bid, because, you know, it's always great to have a competition before somebody's going to have to vote for you, because it's the opportunity, unlike Beijing. Beijing doesn't have a demonstration opportunity, but here's a demonstration opportunity for the organisers here to support their bid by producing these races here, not just the juniors but the under-23s. And Kazakhs, well, they've got a lot of work to do in their team to really bring them through to the standard. But as I said, you know, if they were successful, they'd have 7 years, not just to build new roads and infrastructure and things like that. They've hosted the Asian Winter Games, so they've got quite a few facilities in place, and therefore they've got a good start. So there it is, a comfortable win by Russia over France. France silver medalist for the second year in succession. Norway really never better than third. Finland getting the better of the argument though with Sweden. and altogether, actually quite an enjoyable race. I hope you enjoyed it at home.
I thought that was a great race. America 4:51, a strong anchor leg there with Bai coming in strong. The venue, well, David, I'm impressed with it, but I think as an Olympic venue, they need to make a number of changes to the track as well as other infrastructure, which you mentioned.
With plenty of time, you can just see the mountains there in the background. It really, you know, when you don't have that mist and you have blue sky in the morning and you just wake up from the center of Almaty and you can actually see that. I mean, it's pretty imposing. And, you know, when you drive in from the airport as well, you've got that whole mountain range to look at. And it has a compact feeling. And again, I think that's a plus, because my understanding, I don't know too much about Beijing, but my understanding is that you've got to go something like 100 kilometers to get to the Alpine venues.
So it would be a very spread out Olympics.
Yeah, it would be much more spread out. But, you know, at the same time, you know, we know that the Chinese will be excellent hosts, and they are certainly capable in terms of the technical side. This is France in second place here. And some really good work by their quartet. Well, they were the favourites and they've delivered. Simple as that.
It wasn't a runaway victory, maybe, David. On paper, we'd expect it was a 17-second victory, but a win is a win, and it's only 5 kilometres. It allowed the French team to stay with them.
Well, I think Chewotkin had in his mind just the one attack that he wanted to produce, and that would give him the victory. Hope you enjoyed it. Mike Dixon and myself, David Goldstrom, thank you for your company, and thank you for watching.